I am 72 years old, and I have finally learned when to hold my tongue. For most of my life, I told my family everything, every worry, every dollar, every ache. I believed that love meant leaving no door closed, that a good mother hides nothing at all. Last winter, I learned I was wrong, and the lesson cost me more than I like to admit. Tonight, I will tell you the 7 things I stopped telling my family and why we grew closer, not out of fear and not out of spite, but out of something quieter, out of dignity. So pour yourself something warm and sit a while with an old woman here by the window. If your own family has stopped listening, honey, then I am talking straight to you tonight. Let me tell you who is speaking, so you know these words were paid for in full. I am not a doctor, and I am not an expert. I never wrote a book or stood on a stage. I am only a woman who married young, raised 3 children, and buried a good husband. His name was Raymond, and we were married for 46 years before I lost him one autumn. He worked at the rail yard, and he smelled of oil and strong coffee, and he rarely spoke. I did the talking for both of us. I always have. That was my gift and my great weakness. My knees ache when the weather turns, and I take the stairs slow now, one at a time. I raised my children in a small house with thin walls, where every secret was shared aloud. We had no money for privacy, and so I came to believe that privacy was a kind of coldness. I told my mother everything until the day she died, and I expected the same from my own. Here is the mistake I carried for the better part of 70 years, and what it cost me. I believed that a loving family should have no secrets, no locked drawers, no quiet corners. I thought if I gave my children every single thought in my head, they would love me more. So I handed them my fears, my money worries, my aches, my old wounds, all of it, always. I told my daughter what her father earned. I told my son what I thought of his young wife. I told them how much sat in my savings, down to the very last worn and folded dollar bill. I told them every pain in my back and my chest, every night I lay awake and afraid. And I could not understand why, year by year, they seemed to call me a little bit less. I thought the silence on the phone was their fault. I was certain the fault was all theirs. It took a hard winter and a very quiet Christmas to show me the fault was partly mine. My granddaughter said something to me last year that I have not stopped thinking about since. She said, "Grandma, talking to you feels like carrying a bag that only gets heavier and heavier." It stung me to the bone. I wanted to argue. Instead, for once, I sat still and I listened. And slowly I began to see that love and silence are not enemies. They can be close kin. There is a difference between hiding and simply holding. I had never once learned to hold. Everything I poured out, I poured onto them, and I called the whole weight of it closeness. So this year, one thing at a time, I began to learn to keep certain things to myself, not to lie, not to hide, but to carry my own weight the way a grown woman should. And the strangest thing happened. The quieter I grew, the more my children came near. The 7 things I am about to name are the 7 I stopped setting on their shoulders. Keep the ones that fit your life. Leave the rest. An old woman only offers, she never demands. Let me start with the first, the one that took me the longest and the hardest to learn. The first thing I stopped telling my family is the exact number in my bank account. For years, I thought that was closeness. I would announce my balance like the evening news. I told them when a bill came due, and I told them when a little extra came in. I thought it would keep us near, that money in the open meant there was nothing to hide. But money spoken aloud does a strange thing inside a family. It quietly starts the counting. My son began to worry out loud about what I spent. My daughter worried about her share. I saw the arithmetic move behind their eyes, and it broke something soft between us all. One of them once said, "Mother, you don't need that. Save it." And I felt just like a child. I had worked 40 long years for that money, and now I had to ask leave to spend it. So I stopped. I did not lie. I only stopped reading them my ledger like a bedtime story. When they ask now what I have, I smile and I say, "Enough, sweetheart. I have quite enough." My money is the last small kingdom an old woman still rules. I mean to rule it in peace. If I want to help a grandchild, I help. If I want to keep it, I keep it. It is mine. And here is the tender part. When the counting stopped, the loving had more room to grow. They stopped seeing an account and started seeing their mother again. That was worth it all. Keep the number to yourself, honey. Not out of greed, out of the plain dignity of the thing. The second thing I stopped telling my family is every ache and pain in this old body. Oh, how I used to recite them. My back, my knees, my hip, the night my chest felt tight. Every phone call opened with a full report, like a nurse reading a long chart out loud. I thought I was sharing my life. I did not see I was handing them a heavy bag of worry. My daughter lives 4 hours away, and she cannot fix my sore knees over the telephone. All my list of aches did was make her feel helpless and a little frightened of my calls. A child who comes to dread the phone will let it ring. I learned that slow and sad way. Now, I do not mean you should suffer in silence or hide a thing that truly does matter. If something is serious, I tell them plain, and I let them help, and I say a real thank you. But the daily aches, the ordinary groans of a body wearing out, those I keep to myself now. My knees are my own business. The rain in my joints is between me and the weather outside. When my daughter asks how I feel, I say, "Oh, I'm creaky as an old gate," and we both laugh. And that laughing does me more good than any long recital of every twinge ever once did. The body will do what it does. I will not make my children carry it in their coat pockets. Keep the small aches to yourself, honey. Save your breath for the words that lift folks up. The third thing I stopped telling my family is every old grievance I have long carried. I come from people who kept score. We remembered every slight for 30 years and more. I could tell you what my sister said at my wedding, and it still had teeth left in it. And I passed those grudges down. I told my children who wronged me, and when, and how. I told my son which cousin cheated his father in 1970 on a simple handshake deal. I told my daughter which aunt never paid back a loan, and I told her more than once. I thought I was teaching them the family history. I was teaching them how to resent. Old grievances are like coals. You think you are handing over warmth. You hand over burns. A grudge I keep alive with my mouth becomes a grudge my grandchildren inherit for free. So I stopped. I let the old stories go quiet. I stopped naming who hurt me and just when. It does not mean I forgot. At my age, forgetting is not always a choice I get to make. It means I decided my children should not spend their love standing guard over my old wars. When an old bitterness rises up now, I let it sit in my own chest, and there it quietly stays. The strange gift is this: held in silence, a grudge grows lighter, not heavier, with time. Keep the old grievances to yourself, honey. Do not will your wounds to those who come after. The fourth thing I stopped telling my family is what I really think of their choices. I had an opinion on everything, on how they married, how they spent, how they raised their own. I told my daughter her husband was too quiet. I told my son his wife spent far too freely. I told them their children watched too much television and went to bed much too late. Every visit I inspected their lives like a sergeant, and I reported out just what I found. I called it caring. They came to call it something else, and they came around a good deal less. Here is a truth it took me 70 years to swallow. My children are grown people now. They did not ever ask me to grade their marriages. They asked me only to love them. My son chose his wife, and it is not my marriage to live or to judge from the outside. My daughter is raising her children her own way, and her way is not the only right way. So I bit down on my opinions, and I let the silence hold what my mouth wanted to say. And a curious thing happened. When I stopped judging, they slowly started asking what I thought. Advice given uninvited is a lecture. Advice waited for is a gift. I had it all backwards. Now I wait. If they ask, I answer, soft and short. If they do not, I hold my own peace. Keep your verdict on their lives to yourself, honey. They will come to you when they want it. The fifth thing I stopped telling my family is everything I ever sacrificed for them. I kept a ledger of my giving, and I read from it whenever I felt unseen or unthanked. I gave up my sewing work when you were born, I would say. I went without a warm winter coat. I sat up all night when your fever ran high. I did without so that you could have plenty. Every word of it was true, and every word of it made my grown children feel like a debt. Love that keeps a receipt is not a gift. It is a loan, and children can feel the interest. When I reminded them what I gave, I did not draw them closer. I only made them flinch and turn. Nobody wants to hug a bill collector, even one who nursed them through a bad case of measles. So I closed the ledger. I stopped tallying my sacrifices out loud, like an old debt still owed. What I gave freely, or it was never a gift at all. I decided at last to mean that. A mother's giving should ask for nothing back, or it was never quite giving to begin with. Now, when the old urge rises to remind them, I remember instead why I gave in the first place. I gave because I loved them, not so they would owe me a warm seat in my own old age. And released from the debt, they give back freely now, which is the only way worth having. Keep the account of your sacrifices to yourself, honey. What you gave in love, leave in love. The sixth thing I stopped telling my family is my deepest fear of being a burden to them. There was a whole season I spoke of little else. I said it at every dinner, half a joke. I don't want to be a bother, I would sigh. I hope I don't become a weight on you children. I said it so often that I taught them to see me as a weight before I ever truly was one. Fear spoken over and over does not shrink. It grows, and it plants itself deep in the listener. My children began to worry about the very future I kept naming at the quiet supper table. I was not sparing them by confessing my fear. I was handing them my own dread to hold. Now, I do not swallow every feeling. If my heart is heavy, I may say so once, and gently. But I stopped making my fear the music that played under every single visit and every call. I decided that my worry about tomorrow was mine to carry, not theirs to inherit tonight. When the dark thoughts come, and at my age they do come, I sit with them out on the porch. I let them pass the way weather passes, and I do not phone my daughter to describe the storm. And the fear, left unspoken, loosened its grip. What I stopped feeding stopped growing so wild. My children see a mother at peace now, and that peace is the kindest gift I can leave them. Keep your deepest dread to yourself, honey. Carry it quietly, and let them see your calm instead. The seventh thing I stopped telling my family is my true opinion of the ones they love. When my daughter married Thomas, I did not care for him, and I made very certain she knew it. I found small ways to say it: a raised eyebrow, a cool word, a long sigh across the table. I thought I was protecting her. What I was really doing was forcing her to choose her sides. A woman made to choose between her mother and her husband will grieve whichever one she picks. And every cold word I aimed at Thomas landed, in the end, square upon my own dear daughter. It took me years to see that the man she chose is a part of the woman she became. To reject him was to reject a piece of her, and she felt every single ounce of it. So I stopped. I closed my mouth on my opinion of the ones my children chose to love. I decided to look for one thing to like in Thomas, and then to say that one thing aloud. He is patient with her, I found. He fixes what breaks without being asked. I said so plainly. And a wall I had built for 15 long years came down faster than I ever dreamed it could. Thomas calls me now on Sunday evenings, and I have grown to love the warm sound of it. The one thing I never said turned out to be the very thing that finally set us all free. Keep your low opinion of their beloved to yourself, honey. Guard the love. Do not police it. Now let me tell you how these 7 quiet choices actually look on an ordinary week. Because a lesson that stays in the head is no lesson at all. It has to live in the hands. Last Tuesday, my daughter called, and I felt the old familiar urge rise up in my throat. I wanted to tell her my back had ached all night, and that the heating bill had scared me. I wanted to remind her of the coat I went without so that she could have her piano lessons. Instead, I took a slow breath, and I asked her about her garden and about the children. She talked for half an hour, easy and warm, the way she used to when she was still small. At the end, she said, "Mom, it was so good to talk to you tonight. Let's do this more often." And I hung up the phone and I cried because I had wanted that closeness for so many years. All it had cost me was the things I did not say. That was the whole and simple price of it. Last month, my oldest friend Delia came over for coffee, the first time in a long while. Delia and I have known each other since we were girls in pigtails and scuffed school shoes. She started right in, the way we always did, tallying every ache and every old grievance, her hip, her taxes, the neighbor who wronged her, the daughter who never calls quite enough. And I watched myself in her, the way you catch yourself in an old and honest mirror. I loved her, but I was tired after an hour, the way my own children must have been for years. So I tried something new. I asked Delia to tell me one good thing from her whole long week. She sat quiet a moment, surprised, and then she smiled and told me about a robin's nest. We spent the next hour on small good things, and she left lighter than she came in the door. Do you see it, honey? What we choose not to say makes real room for what is worth saying. My grandson Eli is 17, all elbows and headphones, and he never says much to anyone. Last spring he came to mow my lawn, and I fought the urge to fill the silence with worries. Instead, I just made him a sandwich, and I let the quiet sit between us there on the porch. After a while, all on his own, he started to talk. About a girl, about a fear of his own. I had never heard so many words from that boy, and all I had done was not crowd them out. When he left, he hugged me, quick and rough the way young boys do, and he said, "Thanks, Grandma." I had given him nothing but a little silence and a sandwich, and it was somehow exactly enough. Last winter, I did a hard thing. I took the box of old letters down from the closet shelf. In it were the notes I had saved to remind myself of every wrong ever done to me. Bitter letters, cold Christmas cards, a note my own sister wrote to me in anger long ago. I had kept them the way some folks keep a grudge, filed away and ready to be reread. And I sat down on the kitchen floor, and one by one, I let myself read them a final time. Then I did what I should have done long before. I fed them to the wood stove, and I watched. The paper curled and caught, and the old hard words turned to a little heap of gray ash. I did not tell my children I had burned them. That, too, is one of the things I now keep. But I felt 50 pounds lighter walking to my bed that night, and I slept just like a girl. Now here is a thing for the younger women listening, the daughters and the granddaughters. You do not have to wait until you are 70 to learn when to gently hold your tongue. If I could sit across from my own 40-year-old self, here is what I would tell that woman. Not every feeling needs an audience, child. Some are meant to be carried and not confessed. The people you love are not your diary and not your judge, and they are not your bank. Give them your warmth, your laughter, your listening. Keep the weight you can carry alone. A closed door is not the same as a cold heart. Some doors we close so we can knock later. And silence, chosen with love, is not distance. It is one of the deepest forms of respect. I wish someone had told me that at 40. So tonight I am telling you, whatever your age. Now let me tell you why I think this quiet works, as best an old woman understands it. It is not a secret, and it is not a trick. It is only how the human heart is truly built. Every person carries a weight already, their own bills, their own fears, their own aching days. When we pour our full load onto someone we love, we do not lighten ours, we double theirs. The people who leaned toward me all my life were not asking for my whole heavy heart. They were asking for my company, my warmth, the plain sound of my laugh across a kitchen. A family is not a place to unload everything. It is a place to be, together and unafraid. And time teaches you which words matter. At my age, I have said too many, and now I know. The words I regret are almost never the ones I held back. They are the ones I let fly. I never once lay awake grieving a complaint I swallowed or a grudge I chose to bury deep. But oh, the sharp words, the cold judgments, the fears I spilled, those still visit me at night. Memory is a strange keeper. It saves the harsh word long after it forgets the kind, warm meal. So I have learned to hand my family the words I want remembered and to keep back the rest. This past Christmas showed me how far the quiet had carried us, all of us there together. The whole family came, my daughter and Thomas, my son and his wife, all of the grandchildren. The house was loud and warm, and it smelled of cinnamon and the ham I always burn a little. And I noticed I was not reporting. I was not tallying, not judging, not confessing my fears. I was simply there, pouring cocoa, listening to a grandson tell a story with his whole arms. My daughter caught my eye across the crowded room, and she mouthed two small words, "Thank you." I do not fully know what she was thanking me for. Maybe for all the things I did not say. Later, washing the dishes beside me, she said, "Mom, you're easier to be near these days." Easier to be near. Of all the things I have been called in my life, I think that is the best. I thought, when I was young, that love was measured by how much of yourself you gave away. Now I know that some love is measured by what you are willing, quietly, to hold and keep. So here is one small thing you can do tonight, before you close your too tired eyes. Think of one thing you have been telling your family that you could simply stop telling. One ache, one grievance, one fear, one worry about money, one opinion never even asked for. Just the one. And the next time it rises to your lips, hold it like you would a warm stone. Feel how it stays your own. Notice whether the quiet brings you nearer and not further off. You do not have to change everything tonight. You only have to hold one thing back, just once. That is how it begins. One held word, and then another, until the noise softens into peace. And if you feel you have said too much for far too many years, do not you dare despair now. It is never, ever too late. I began at 71, with knees that ache and a slow old step. If a stubborn old woman like me can learn to hold her tongue, then, honey, so can you. The door you close too hard can be opened again, gentle this time, and knocked upon kindly. Your family has not stopped loving you. Perhaps they are only waiting to feel light near you. Give them your peace instead of your weight, and watch how quickly they come back home.
That is my whole heart tonight, from my kitchen table to wherever you are sitting and listening.
If these words warmed you, stay a while with me, subscribe, and pull your chair up close. It is calm and it is kind here, and I promise never to hurry you along, not ever once. In my next video, I will tell you the things I finally learned to say out loud after 70. Because there is a time to keep silent, and there is a time to speak, and wisdom knows both. Come back and sit with me, and I will tell you the words worth saying before we forget them. Until then, be gentle with yourself, and be gentle with the ones who are still here with you. Good night, honey. Keep what is yours to keep,